What's up, guys? Sorry I look like a mess, a little bit more than usual. Today's the 21st of May, 2017. I find it fascinating that it's now officially Gemini season, and I just, it was actually more of the psychic thing, which actually is amazing astrologically. So, my psychic signature is supposed to be Ceres in Sagittarius at 28 degrees, in direct opposition with Chiron in Gemini near my ascendant. So Ceres at 28 degrees or 28 degrees of Sagittarius is the galactic center, right? So that's supposed to be where I'm supposed to channel some sort of healing kind of intuitive information from. For years, anybody who knows me personally knows that Neptune in Capricorn has been evident, a disease that I have had, that I have, gone back and forth and been in denial about and kind of acknowledged that I have rheumatoidism or Capricorn Saturn associated issues. So with it squaring, with my Saturn actually squaring Mars, Mars is supposed to represent acute infectious kind of things. So it means that I will have lifelong acute infectious sort of things. Having Taurus ruling over the 12th house in opposition with my Plutonian signature. Me being internally scorpionic. Scorpio can translate directly to toxins or poison. But just as everything has a dual natureship, you can use the virus for an antidote, or you can let the virus eat you alive. And so when people are skeptical, especially people towards people that are more nihilistic, that say that a negative mentality doesn't have physiological effects, I am living proof that that is accurate. And even as I continue to fight off the Plutonian, overwhelming kind of toxicity within me, I still have to deal with the years and the repercussions of having said mentality now on my physiological being. This happening during my first Saturn return is evident that this is supposed to be not only a life experience and a lesson for myself, but that I'm supposed to emulate this experience through my self-expression. That's when I look at my chart from a solar graph perspective. My midhaven in Aquarius is in my 5th house, meaning that I'm supposed to use my life example as an example to prove and validate things that the scientific community and skeptics alike would not be able to handle or agree with, or even acknowledge. Which the cognitive dissonance with the satanic community, it's the same thing. The scientific community is even worse than it's ever been. So when I get up in the morning, having Neptune and Capricorn, I have some friends, that have Sagittarius or whatever for Neptune, and they have they twitch in their sleep, they move around a lot, they sleepwalk, they talk. Me, I'm out like the dead. I am Osiris, legitimately, and which is that pun was actually intentional, and I guess they're not as funny when they're intentional, I guess. But so when I get up in the morning, whoever I'm dating or whoever I'm rooming with or whatever that sees me when I first get up, they not only did I sleep like the dead and I look like fucking shit when I get up. It's not even if there's a concept of beauty sleep, of course, since I'm the opposite of everyone, I don't get any sleep. In fact, I actually look better when I don't get sleep than when I do. In fact, I know that because when I'm pretty much just sitting there on fumes and I maybe have dozed off for an hour, and then I go into the bathroom and I clean up and I just put basic makeup on, just eyeliner, and I don't even put foundation on because I'm against that. My psychic signature more or less tells me I should not wear foundation because it's bad for me. So I just say fuck it. And I've got Saturn square Mars, which means it's an uphill battle for me to try to hide age. But when I get up, I feel worse since I slept than if I would have just stayed up. Isn't that odd? And I'm also very stiff, and I've even had surgery on my Achilles tendons to have them lengthened because I've become so stiff. Part of that's from hypertension, part of that's just I think actually does to do with this. So in recent times, within the last couple years, I've been able to tell when my boyfriend Stacy has gotten ill. I've also been able to tell when somebody's on the verge of serious repercussions for their health. And I am naturally good at figuring out homeopathic or esoteric ancient ways to remedy things or to treat things. And although I have a lot of homeopathic books over there, I haven't necessarily looked at all of them per se, because I usually just go and start looking at those books when I feel I need to. That's kind of how all my books are. That's why I also make a lot of interesting videos about like, oh my god, I have this book, and I open it and I seem so excited as if I never read it, because I haven't actually read it. Because that Jupiter signature in my chart that's trying my Uranus, and it's also would be conjunct with Ceres as well. That is what helps me find books. I would love for somebody to actually come with me one time and record me in an actual, thrift store and watch the process in which I grab books, because I don't read any of them when I get them. I just am randomly skimming through, and even when me and my friend Jackie went to Moses Lake last week, I was going grocery shopping, but there's a Goodwill right there next to Winco. I went in there and I just go, I just do my Virgo Mars thing. I go through the entire thing. And I was there for a good minute. She's like, I thought you actually left or something. And I'm like, no. So I went through the entire thing, and I'm still standing there at the end of it. And I'm looking over all the books. I'm like, do I want all these? Do I want all these? Do they look good? And I'm not actually opening them and looking at them. I'm just staring at the covers. The only one I actually did open for a brief moment was the women's voices of the haunting voices, or the women's voices of the Oregon Trail, because that was really trippy. But as I kept staring at it, and I looked up at the wall where all the books are at, I stared at it. I'm like, I'm missing something. And I'm like, fuck. Like, I was like, I almost feel like I have an urgency, like a shopaholic does, until I find what I need. And it's not like anything that fills that void, because I've tried that play, and that doesn't work. So I went back, and I had to go back thoroughly over it. I was probably on that wall for over an hour and a half. And right where I found like the voice of the Oregon Trail, I got so distracted by that because it freaked me out that I happened to overlook. Oh, it's in my Ouija board bag. That book that I referenced the other day, the astrologer book. Yeah, and I was like, holy shit, really? This is the only astrology book that I found here, and I overlooked it, and that's why. It's that. So I've been having swelling in my legs. I have Uranus in Sagittarius, Saturn in Sagittarius, and the moon in Sagittarius on my descendant. Your descendant line is the opposite of your vitality, your ascendant. Therefore, that will be the whatever body parts are ruled by that, and whatever the function of said planets that are there will represent how you start to have symptoms surface with conditions. So, if you look at the wheel as it goes in order, the self is the 5th house, the 6th house is of your daily habits of that self, and the repercussions of your toxic daily habits will then start to surface as symptoms on the descendant. You see what I'm saying? Then as it goes through the 7th house, you'll start to associate, wow, something is totally different than how my self usually is, the opposition with the self and others. You start to notice that there's something other than what is normal for you happening to you. And usually that's the time when people think there's nothing huge going on, don't worry about it, I'll get over it. And when you ignore it, then it continues to ascend to the 7th house, and then bam, it turns into disease when it hits the 8th house. That's what the 8th house represents, disease. That is when pretty much intervention is absolutely necessary. Some people continue to deny it and ignore it, and I'm at that point now, actually, in fact. It's probably way beyond that, as a matter of fact, because since Taurus rules my 12th house, and that has to do with stability and health, nutrition, those sorts of things, and it's opposition with that toxic Plutonian signature within me, I've gone for years with having my gums bleed excessively when I brush my teeth. I don't talk about it. It's not that I don't have good hygiene. It's happened ever since I had braces when I was 14. So, yeah, when Saturn was in opposition on my ascendant, exactly with where it is when I was born, was the onset time when this started to happen. Which is funny, because now Saturn's exactly opposite from when that happened. Love how synchronicity works. See, that's why I love to tie my chart and charts into everything. Because there is synchronistic meaning to everything. And the benefit of that is now, if I have a similar kind of pattern in the future, which I most certainly will, Saturn is notorious for doing that every 7 years, it's going to cause some sort of significant pattern of events for you. I will now be well prepared for this. But anyway, so I always used to say, well, because I looked up what that meant. I know what that meant. That meant I have gingivitis, right? And even when I have the whitest teeth ever, really, like seriously, in all seriousness. Like my mouth is super healthy. My dentists have even told me that like nothing looks bad. Just why are your gums always bleeding? It has something to do with the toxicity within me. When I did this reflexology thing not too long ago, it was like an as seen on TV thing I bought from Walmart. I happened to read it. And I never realized that my high pain tolerance probably masks a lot of what I'm going through. Because this mat said that if it's too painful, wear socks. I put my feet on this and I'm like, this hurts somebody? Weird. Okay. And then I kind of just skimmed through it and said, don't do this if you're diabetic. Don't do this if you have a heart problem. Don't do this if you have kidney issues. Which I'm like, okay. So I'm like, I'm good. And then it just, I started reading it. It says, do this for this long or until you feel discomfort. Because I'm a Plutonian and pain's kind of like the way I learn things, I instantly translated that as, I can do this until it hurts. Yeah. And so I'm standing here and I was like, huh. And I started to get bored because I get bored really easy. Well, not bored, but I need stimulation. So I just put the mat like right here where I am, and I was sitting on my computer and I was reading up on things, and I didn't realize that I was standing there for about 15 minutes. And then all of a sudden I started feeling this burning sensation right underneath the strap of like my bra and my tank top. And I'm like, what the hell? And like I moved it and I was like, and there was that rash and I'm like, what? And then I started feeling on this side. I'm like, what the hell? And I go over there and it started to get red. And the second that I took the straps off, that should be your first clue that it's something really weird. But of course Uranus is on my descendant, so hello, that's usually how things go for me. The second that I took it off, because usually I'm allergic to the sun. I know how burns work. I know how if you get burned, you don't want to put stuff on it. And how if you let it air out and put like aloe vera on it, it usually alleviates it or makes it better. As soon as I took the straps off, it started to get redder and even more ugh. And I was like, holy shit. So then I stepped off the mat. And I was like, oh my god. And then I have a reflexology book over there that I have yet to look at again, as I said. And I open it up. And it says that how dangerous reflexology can potentially be. That paper just briefly mentions it at the bottom, like the disclaimer, like, all those side effects to the toxic drugs that they give you at the doctor. It's just really itty bitty bitty. But that book over there, a good third of that book is what the fuck not to do with reflexology. I was like, wow. Well, you see, usually my MO is to make sure that I research what not to do with this. And I assumed because it was an as seen on TV thing, and that it was a freaking mat. Like, I've done worse to my feet than that. And that's probably why my feet are so pissed. Pisces is going over my 10th house, which is also the whole thing that's making me psychic and talking to dead people and shit. And it's also karma. And the 10th house, which is associated with Saturn, is judgment. So karmatic judgment that has directly something to do with my 6th house, my toxic habitual behavior, is now surfacing. Pluto's making sure of that, transiting over my 8th house with Neptune. Right. To the point where even though I have Neptune in my 8th house, and even though I've kept these kinds of things to myself, they're my secrets throughout my life. And I've played off, and not necessarily that I'm hiding it from me, but I played off that there's some other kind of physiological explanation for the things that are happening to me, and because I'm so fucking weird, everybody automatically, for just by default, has to believe me, because what the hell else do they have to go off of? Right. And that's also why I have that survival instinct in me. Because I am abnormal, I'm never going to be responding the same or in the typical way as most people would in any situation. And so the psychic thing is supposed to be my hindsight 2020, as Stacy calls it. But fascinatingly enough, I was making meatloaf the other night. For whatever reason, it was actually, the way I justified it is, I was being a lazy Libra. I decided instead of cutting up an onion, partially because half the time I can't even find utensils downstairs. I have an Aquarius mother. Uranus is in the 4th house in our composite chart with my brother. If that doesn't tell you anything. So, right. So the house is crazy. The house is chaotic. Including the kitchen. And that drives me absolutely nuts. I'm a Scorpio Mercury, and I have Virgo squaring Uranus, Virgo Mars squaring Uranus. Pisses me off. Makes me really, really pissed. So I just was like, fuck it. I just bought an entire container of minced garlic, just dried, to put it in there. I'm like, it'll soak up, the excess liquids anyway and whatever. And I actually worked out the best that I've ever made a meatloaf. And then I looked at, because the only reason why I did that is because I didn't want to cut an onion. And then I also was like, do we have any more onions? I don't know. Because my mom always does this when, I go out of town. I just went out to Vegas. I come back and she says, we have no groceries. I'm like, okay. She's like, go grocery shopping. But then she doesn't tell me what we should get. And she didn't really relay to me, what we're out of. And I have no idea what they actually even bought while I was gone. So I'm just going at it blind. I didn't get onions. There was one onion left. And when I was cooking the meatloaf, I turned around and I'm like, huh, look, there's an onion. And I thought about it. I'm like, maybe I should just cut it up and use it. And I was like, nah, I'm going to leave it. Turns out that I used that onion last night. For whatever reason, I saw when I was scrolling through my news feed on Facebook one day that I should put an onion in my sock. I've heard of this before. I've done this with lavender patches too. The Japanese do it to pull out toxins out of your body. I actually gave some to my Pisces father, and I'm convinced he probably never used them. But yeah, because he said he didn't. But my dad gets stiff too. I'm a lot like him. I just thought that was how it went. And my dad always avoids hospitals, doctors, and everything. So thanks, Dad. But so for whatever reason, I was like, well, I know the garlic thing. I've done that, and I've done the foot soaks. I've been doing that to keep it at bay. The swelling and basically the toxema that is starting to develop in my feet. Because remember, Pisces, Neptune, being in the 10th house of judgment and Saturn karma during my Saturn return, squaring my Saturn, would be that all the repercussions of the shit I've been doing is now going to start showing up in my feet. For the first time yesterday, I was actually visible downstairs to everybody, and they saw how swollen one of my legs was, my left foot. And now it's getting to the point where it's difficult to hide. So I take excessive amounts of turmeric to actually get the swelling to go down. I've been doing that for months. So turmeric helps. And then I've been doing Epsom salt and the concentrated herb oils, foot baths with baking soda. That has helped keep it down and made the skin look a little better. If I hadn't have done this, not only would my ankles and my calves be completely swollen, to gigantic proportions, but my skin starts to look like I'm actually type 2 diabetic. It's fascinating. Because I don't actually eat significantly that much sugar per se to be having those sorts of issues. So, but I do have Saturn square Mars, essentially. And since Saturn is in Sagittarius, Sagittarius is associated with diabetic, more or less, things. So that would explain why my skin would potentially look like that. I cut the onion up, and I used the halves. I put them in my socks. I don't sleep very much either. As soon as I came up here, and I had the onions in my socks for a minute, I was trying to finish, basically set up my video so it would start uploading, the thing that I did the other night. I started to feel lethargic, tired. I go in between. I'm restless and then I'm tired. I'm restless and I'm tired. I can sit there and go like this for 10 minutes and then I'm good for another day. It's really intense. It's really weird. I just laid down for a second, not because I was actually tired, but because if I stand for too long, or if I don't lay flat long enough, then I start to feel as if all of the blood and weight in my entire body is pressing down into my legs and crushing my legs. I feel like that. Which, evidently so, that's been a thing. Because if you were going to think, like, metaphorically, why would I need to have my Achilles tendons lengthened? How am I causing that much stress and strain on myself, even regularly, without doing advanced weightlifting anymore, to need that? Because I stopped doing advanced weightlifting over 10 years ago now because of these strains in my legs, and because my doctor, in particular, told me that I should lay off. While in fact, despite the fact that he's a great doctor and he did amazing on my surgeries, his recommendation for basically backing off of advanced weightlifting has actually progressed everything to be intensified and worse than what it was. Which that should be convincing enough for me, just saying that out loud now, that I feel comfortable going back and start doing weightlifting again, once I get this under control. But, of course, I'm meandering, but it's all educational meandering, so I feel okay. I just got up about 30 minutes ago now, since we're at 21 after with this video, and I had those onions in my socks. I almost slept 10 hours solid without any disturbances. And then also, because I have Chiron and Gemini in my first house, I have pains, nerve pains, Virgo Mars, and Sagittarius is also, immutable. I have nerve pains in my shoulders, right here. If I actually start to feel mineral deficiency from Neptune and Capricorn, I feel it right here. And then also, if I just lay on my arm a certain way, I can make my arm fall asleep like within a minute and a half. I've timed it. I did that when Gizzy, my cat, was jumping up onto the bed with me. And I moved my arm so he could lay right there. And I knew it was going to make my arm fall asleep. It usually does. But for the first time in a while, the tingling was so intense in my hand and my arm that I was like, wow. I mean, I feel it, but I thought that maybe my arms just didn't fall asleep like that anymore. So, if that kind of sensation just came back, makes sense. The turmeric has been keeping this at bay and has likely kept me alive for the last 6 months. Not even going to lie about that. When I started talking about turmeric, like its homeopathic remedies and stuff, that is when I started taking it. I wasn't consistent with it because Saturn Sagittarius is notorious for being inconsistent. But when it started to feel dire, that's when I took it. And that actually has been keeping me alive. The foot baths that I randomly felt compelled to do also have been helping. I didn't have any prior knowledge or research about those things in particular either. Beyond the turmeric, I looked it up. But that was more or less after the fact. Because I was like, I've heard this word turmeric before. And I kept really feeling the urge to go get curry a lot. And that was actually the only thing spicy-wise that I started to open up to and was willing to eat. Because I used to hate spicy food. But I got up for the first time after that, after my, arm woke up. And not only did I not feel like I had to stumble, like I'm like waddling like a penguin, which my dad does that too. So that would look normal to me. I got up, didn't struggle at all, and in fact, walked right out of my room into the hallway, right downstairs, and right down the stairs, and my mom actually thought I had already been awake because I didn't like waddle or limp. Because I literally, when I wake up and I get up, I look like I'm the Walking Dead. I literally do. I feel stiff from head to toe. In fact, I usually wake up with severe headaches, too. God, what the fuck goes on in my sleep? I don't even really remember dreams very often, either. I think I am fucking dead. I sure act like it. And, like, sometimes, like, because when I had braces, like, I drool. Like, depending on how long I've slept, like, you see, like, this huge, like, it almost looks like I literally died and, like, all of the liquids in me, like, have oozed out. I'm not even joking. I know that sounds really gross, but since I'm kind of just really putting the spotlight on myself, I might as well just be really masochistic about it. But, I feel bad for whoever the fuck wakes up to me for the first time. The whole girl not having her makeup on thing is way beyond that. And then a couple of exes have told me that I sound like a demon in my sleep, and I'm like, dude, I probably am. I do have Lilith in a grand trine with Pallas in the North Node, so, you know, whatever. But anyway, so I haven't even taken the onions out of my socks yet, but, yeah, I went right downstairs and I got something to eat and brought it up, and that's something that I actually, am horrible about. Sometimes I just won't go get food. The first thing I thought of was to go down and go get food. I came up here, ate all of it, and then I went into the bathroom. And then as I was looking at my feet when I looked down, because I was like, oh my god, because I've actually been avoiding looking at my fucking feet for a while. And that should be me already, I knew that. I was well aware of that. That I was intentionally looking away from a train wreck. And I'm like, bitch, you have no right to do that because you point out everybody else's train wrecks, and that's being a hypocrite. Right. And you gravitate towards train wrecks, so that means that you knew well aware about all of this way before it even started to transpire, and you did nothing about it. Right. Your own self-undoing. That's why it's called the self-undoing house. Yep. But anyway, I've never seen my ankles so small. That and I look slimmer today. And you know what's even weirder? I was going to take a shower last night because, like, with the rashes that were on my shoulder or whatever, I basically have toxic blood, or I have something toxic just basically duplicating in massive traumatic quantities all in my body somewhere. Sorry, I realized that I got so far off my train of thought that I didn't actually finish this thought in particular before I uploaded it. I was feeling the urgency to take a shower last night because I don't have eczema, but like sometimes my skin will just feel like it's burning everywhere. Especially, you know, being a girl, you know, I've got, you know, some curves and stuff, and like kind of like in my bra area, I start to feel it at first, and I'm like, I need to go take a shower now. I don't feel that I need to. I am going to now, though. Now that I'm done with this, I'm just going to let this upload while I go do that. But usually I feel like I need to, or the pain and the discomfort will continue to get worse. I don't feel that at all this morning, and I felt that all day yesterday. Meaning that the bacteria and or infectious kind of toxic stuff, toxema, that was evidently everywhere, all the way to my fingertips, because that's why I have more sensation now, is actually been pulled out. And I used a white onion too, or a yellow onion, so I'm wondering if it does like the same thing with like the lavender patches where it makes it black. I'm gonna find out. So time back in. And ironically enough, all the times that I maim myself, or even that I pick my lips and bleed, that's actually caused by my Virgo squaring Saturn. But I will go to town and like things will bleed excessively on my face. Not on my face, but on my lips. Or I'll maim myself. Just like with women who before menopause, they have a 50%, they cut their chances of stroke or heart attack or, you know, toxema by 50% because when they have their periods, they actually bleed out. Oh my god, and my really, really intense menstrual thing, I know that sounds really, really gross, but it's irregular. Like, hello, I'm irregular all the time. And I go, oh my god, I almost feel like I'm almost dying because I'm going to bleed out. It's probably the only thing that saves my life. Yeah, because you're basically, if you donate blood or you bleed out, your body has to produce new blood cells, which is purified, cleansed. They're new, right. So that's why men have a higher chance of strokes, heart attacks, and blood issues, because you guys don't have a natural reoccurring thing to expel excessive amounts of blood. Which, that being said, just to make this constructive and educational for other people, any men that actually have stuck around long enough to watch the rest of this after I started talking about my menstrual thing, if you actually go and donate blood regularly, you cut your rate for heart attack and stroke by 50%. I think it's like 62%, something like that. But I just do 50, round it off. I'm horrible at math. But anyway, I'm going to go take the onions out now. But it helped with my rheumatoidism. It helped me get up right away. I feel more sensation in my Gemini extremities, which should tell me that that's helping. Because Gemini and Chiron being in opposition with my symptoms, that's actually the biggest eye-opening thing that happened to me this morning, besides me getting up just fine. That I actually felt a phenomenon that I normally feel that reflexes to my Gemini, associated planets or placements. And Gemini is in Chiron on my ascendant, near my ascendant. That I did the right thing. Putting onions in my socks is the first step to doing what I need to do. And I found another interesting article as I was laying there, right before my phone died, about different things with onion juice. So, the one thing that pissed me off right away when I was looking that up, by the way, is I put onions in socks on Google. The first page and a half of Google results is Snopes and all this stupid shit saying that they're debunking the remedies or the cures of putting onions in your socks. I'm fucking livid. Because out of all the homeopathic remedies that I've ever Googled, even though I'm well aware that Google's bullshit, hence why the books are there. But it's easier for me to just find a reference online that correlates with what I already know and screen cap it to show it to somebody online. Because I've done the whole let's take pictures of books thing and it's annoying. And then nobody even reads them anyway because none of you fucking people read. And yeah, and then sometimes they can't even see the fucking font. So then I have to edit the damn photo just to make it visible online. That's just really annoying. That's where the whole Google and internet sources come into play. As long as I know that they're accurate, they correlate with what my books say, I can fucking use them. But with onions, it's a readily available thing. It was super fucking easy. I didn't even use the whole onion. I just cut off both ends and just peeled, the excess skin and put them in my socks and walked away. That was it. It took less than 2 minutes. And I even have this much of a fucking onion to use for food if I really want to. So I could have technically used it for meatloaf, but knowing me, I would have thrown the ends away like I usually do, which is what I needed. So that's why I didn't use it. But because it's so easily available, and apparently it works amazing. Like, I would even argue that this might work better than garlic, to be honest. I haven't actually slept with garlic on my feet all night because I'm a little apprehensive about that because that smells just, whew. After I made the garlic tinctures, my bathroom didn't stop smelling like garlic for fucking months. Even after I doused it in apple cider vinegar and lavender oil and all kinds of shit. So I'm just like, I don't know if I want to go there. Sleep with that on my feet? Are you joking me? It'll never come out. So the onions thing, which by the way, you know how like if you put garlic on your feet and you taste your breath smells like garlic? I don't have that sensation, but my tongue feels like, kind of like my eyes do when you're cutting an onion, if that makes sense. Because the onions are still in my socks right now. Because I mean, if I'm going to see if a remedy works and the remedy works, I might as well see how long it is before it starts to be bad. Because excess is always bad. Yep, and I'm the poster child for that. Yeah, that, and I think I'm still in shock that it's worked. Or I'm just so happy that it is worked that I don't want to take them out. It's probably that, yeah. But anyway, I'm pissed because there seems to be more of an effort by not just, random sites that usually go, yeah, I'm a skeptic, I don't believe that. There seems to be more of a mainstream public fucking effort to debunk the onions in your socks do anything than any other homeopathic remedy I've ever fucking Googled. I'm livid. So, this is the long story, but I'm sure that I will reiterate this over and over again in the future. And probably go all Halamea shit and Pallas and Lilith on their ass for every single fucking source that has tried to go out of their way to thoroughly persuade you that onions don't do that. Because why would they do that? Because they don't want you to cure yourself. Because then they lose customers or they lose fucking people. Because eventually, even if they're not directly profiting from your health issues, if you start to actually discover ways to cure yourself, solve your own problems, and deal with your own issues without going to the people who make money off of you to help resolve, quote-unquote, your issues, however that is, the pseudo-band-aid they give you, then you taking care of yourself affects their bottom line, their profits. That's why. And that's also why I exist. I'm going to run into some really fucked up things. I'm going to do some things really wrong. But I'm going to be the life example of what you should do and what you should not do. And probably, I always recommend first and foremost, assume that what I'm doing is what you should not do first. But when you notice that it's working, please, give the skeptic thing a second thought. I don't discourage people from being skeptical about what I say, because sometimes I'm even skeptical about what I say, or sometimes I should be a little bit more skeptical about what I say, because sometimes the insanity part of the Uranus and Sagittarius really does manifest as symptoms, and it doesn't really hit me until later that I'm being a little crazy. I'm gonna go now. Asta.